Happy Tuesday morning, Freight Master family. This is going to be a part 1 of 2 video. This one is specifically for freight brokers. The part 2 video will be for you carriers. But you, as a freight broker carrier, you might be able to take a little something away from, each one. I'll probably do part 2 tomorrow, or I will make it Thursday's video, depending upon what kind of time that I have. I initially didn't anticipate on doing this video today, but my pup had other things in mind, and I was up at, oh my God, it's early, to let her out and everything. So yeah, I was up and caffeine hit me, and I just kind of got to thinking about some of the things that are affecting not just the carriers that we're going to talk about in the next video, but for you new brokers and agents, or those of you that maybe have been in the industry for a couple of years. Maybe you got in while the freight market was still kind of hot, and then immediately sort of tapered off. Right. So you maybe started to see a little bit of success, and then, what do I do now? Kind of a thing. We've seen so many other brokers kind of fall by the wayside and things, and freight agents. And I get these emails and not even just emails, but phone calls from other agents that I know, other brokers that I know, and things, questions in the Facebook group. And I felt it was kind of important to address some of these, because it seems to be a more and more common type topic, right? Especially when you're in a freight recession like the one that we're in. So I guess without any further ado, we'll get into it right after this. Okay, so one of the biggest killers that I'm noticing for new freight brokers or freight agents is complacency. Okay, the basics of freight brokering, like there's a lot of complexity to freight brokering, but when you're first starting out, the initial part of it is really not that difficult. Right? It's not. It's kind of a numbers game. You're trying to build your carrier database and get customers, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about what's the right customer for you and what's the wrong customer for you. Okay, and we'll get into that. But complacency seems to be the biggest thing, and complacency really sort of umbrellas a lot of different things. Okay, so complacency can affect your prospecting. Okay, because as I've mentioned numerous times throughout my videos, is that your fault, their fault, nobody's fault. At some point in time, you will lose customers. Okay, whether it be to the freight recession, right? We kind of saw that boom, that spike in the industry during the COVID pandemic. And then, shortly thereafter, everything just sort of dropped off. And we've been in, a 22, 23 month freight recession, essentially. So everybody kind of like, oh, what happened? I was moving loads and I was doing great with the spot market. And now I have no freight. My customers don't have any freight to give me. And they've lost that prospecting skill. Right? And so what we want to do is sort of rejuvenate that. And by the way, guys, if you have any comments that or questions while I'm kind of going over all of this, by all means, the live chat is open. So hit me. Okay. So I'm not having a problem personally. And I've had, I've talked to some other people, other brokers and agents that I know within the industry, and they go, well, it must be nice, or that kind of a thing. Well, No, it's not. You can't cheat the hustle. You really can't cheat the hustle, right? I'm putting in the work. I'm constantly prospecting. I'm finding the right fit for my carriers, right? I'm communicating with them. Complacency covers communication. It covers prospecting. It covers vetting. It covers your relationships, utilizing all of the resources at hand, right? And your resources are going to be some of the best tools for success, right? We've talked to you about Operfi, eCarrierCheck, utilizing your load boards, all of these types of things, right? But going back to prospecting, if you're not having success prospecting by cold email or texting, maybe it's time to pick up that phone and start dialing, right? That's what I tell everybody. They're like, what are you doing today, Tim? You got a minute? I'm like, just smiling and dialing all day long, right? When I'm not moving loads, I'm on the phone. And I know that for some of you, some of the younger generation, not trying to age myself, but I'm probably a lot older than maybe some of you out there. But, it seems like the younger people, they would very much rather prefer to text or email, but I find that to be very impersonal. And cold calling can be impersonal to some extent because you're not meeting that prospect face to face. But I find that cold calling in itself is a little bit less impersonal than texting or emailing, right? And then when you email, some of these companies have what do I want to call it? Like filters. If they don't know your email address, it'll kick it out. It'll kick it back. It basically goes into a circular file. And the point of contact that you're trying to reach will never see it, right? So that's another hurdle that you face with cold emailing, right? So don't be afraid of that phone, okay? And you're like, but Tim, I'm making 100 calls a day or 50 calls a day or whatever your daily goal is to prospect, however many contacts that you're trying to reach, but I'm not having any success at it. And I've been doing this for a month. Okay, change your approach. Don't get complacent with your sales approach, right? If one thing isn't working, isn't that what? Somebody help me here. The idea of stupidity or idiocracy is repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Change it up. Stop trying to sell to the gatekeeper. Okay. So when you call, let's say ABC Manufacturing, and they make widgets, all right, and that first person that picks up the phone probably isn't the greatest person to try to sell to, right? Now, when they answer the phone and they say, this is Tom or this is Maria, okay, say, hi, Maria, hi, Tom, this is Tim at yada, yada, yada. I'm trying to reach your shipping department, or if you know who the point of contact is, I'm trying to reach Bob in shipping, and if you know their last name, that's even better. But that sort of relays that you have some sort of a working relationship with them by addressing that prospect by name, right? Your point of contact. They're more likely to transfer that call to them versus going, well, what is this in regards to if you just ask for shipping, right? You're going to start getting those types of answers a lot. And maybe you're already experiencing that. And so that's why I always tell everybody, utilize one of your resources would be LinkedIn, right? Brush up your LinkedIn profile. In fact, I actually just wrote something, and I'm going to post it on the website here at some point in time today about, marketing your services through LinkedIn, finding your prospects through LinkedIn, right? We've talked about it in previous videos, but I feel that it bears re-mentioning, right? And maybe even taking a little bit of a different approach, maybe going a little bit more in depth with it. But yeah, change your approach if it's not working. Okay. In my last video, we talked about a carrier who reached out to me who was the victim of double brokering, right? And ultimately, this could have been avoided had broker A properly vetted the carrier that they tendered the load to, right? That carrier that they gave the load to didn't even have the right equipment type. They have multiple reports of double brokering. So whether it was them not utilizing their resources due to complacency, right? There's that word again, complacency, or they're just not thinking about, hey, I need something else besides RMIS or DAT onboard or my carrier packets or whatever they're using to onboard their carriers. Your onboarding, those onboarding systems are not designed to fully vet your carriers. Okay, you need to be utilizing things like Carrier OK, Carrier 411, Highway, things like that. Those are a few examples. In fact, I would maybe love to have someone from one of those companies actually kind of come on and showcase that. And I may do it myself, kind of go through one of these systems for you so that you can actually kind of see if you're not already utilizing one of them, right? And all of the information that they provide, you go, wow, this is phenomenal. No way would I've booked the load with that carrier. Not only by not properly vetting your carrier, you're opening yourself up to losing that customer, right? Because now your headache becomes your customer's headache. Because after enough time goes by, if that carrier doesn't find out that you are the originating broker on the load, what do you think is going to happen? Once they don't get paid by the double broker, they're going to send a bill to your customer, right? Your customer, in turn, is probably going to call you or send you a very nasty email on why aren't you paying your carriers, right? That in turn, that same reason is why, from my last video, the customer that the carrier that I was helping, when we reached out to, we weren't even entirely sure that they were the shipper and the consignee originally. But that shipper actually said, hey, you've kind of opened our eyes to this. And they actually sent me over a link to get set up with them because this other broker dropped the ball, and it's going to happen. So kind of going back to our prospecting efforts, right? Don't get discouraged. Don't get complacent. If your goal is 50 calls a day or 100 calls a day, whatever it is, don't stop 1 or 2 calls short. That next phone call might be the one. It happened to me last week, different situation. It was getting right toward the end of the day, and I thought, they're probably not even going to answer the phone. And I almost didn't call. I almost got complacent about it. But I went, because otherwise I'm not living by my own example, right? I'd be a hypocrite. So I made that phone call. I had about a 20-minute conversation with that prospect, and sure enough, they're a customer now, right? And they sort of expressed to me some of their concerns with the 2 brokers that they were already working with, right? They had specific requirements that the broker wasn't following. And so that customer too became my customer, right? So don't get discouraged. Building your relationships. Don't get complacent in building your relationships. I know that, utilizing the load board and throwing that out there, especially, when the market's good and things, and you can maybe make better margins on some of those loads. It would behoove you to build good carrier relationships, right? It makes your job easier and your customer's job easier. In fact, when you got a customer and they call you, because I've got one that does this to me, when they call you and they say, hey, I know that you've got 3 loads already picking up for us today, but we've got a last minute load. Can you get this covered for us? Let me know in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Because of my carrier relationships, I pretty much know where all of my carriers are, my outside carriers are at any minute of any day, because they're constantly checking in with me, right? So let's just say that I had this load out of Phoenix. I make a quick phone call or a text message to one of my contacts over there and say, hey, do you still have your truck available today? Because I want to double check. Yep. Okay. I've got this load, and they've usually done it. If not, if it's a different lane or something, we'll go over it real quick. But I can call that customer or text them back and say, hey, yep, I've got it covered inside of 3 minutes. Those customers are more apt to open up more lanes to you, make you, if they've got 2 or 3 other brokers maybe that they're working with, but because these other brokers are dropping the ball, they might give you their entire account and let you manage it. I've done it. It can happen. It can happen in a down market. It can happen when the market's up, right? And it's unfortunate, but these other brokers get complacent, right? We're going to talk about complacency in the next video about carriers too. But that's going to be the part 2 to all of this. Right now, we're primarily talking about brokers. But building your customer relationships is equally as important, right? I know I've said in previous videos that I value my carrier relationships over my customer relationships. And I'm not saying that my feelings have necessarily changed on that. But your customer relationships are almost equal to the importance of that carrier relationship, right? Because not all customers are loyal. The one thing that I find in all years that I've been doing this is that your carrier following is much more loyal than your customer following, right? So that's why I put more importance on my carrier relationships than my customer relationships, because another customer is a phone call away. If I've got a customer in St. Louis, Missouri, and they go, you know what, Tim, this other broker came in, they're promising me this pricing, and eventually they just sort of weed me out for whatever reason. Or maybe the transportation manager that I was working with retired or left their job for whatever reason, and a new transportation manager comes in. I've had this happen to me before too. They want to bring their own brokers and carriers in. They don't even want to talk to you. They don't care what you have to say. They don't care that you've been working with that company for the last 10 years. They're going to do things their own way. It sucks, but it happens, right? So what do? You move on, you find another customer in St. Louis, and you maintain that carrier relationship. And you use that as part of your prospecting effort, right? You can say, I've got 17 dry vans every day, typically emptied by noon in St. Louis. Let's do business, right? So maintain your relationships. Don't get complacent, all right? Utilize all your resources. We touched on that just a moment ago. If you're not utilizing things like eCarrierCheck, right, which is a great way to find shippers. It's a CRM. It'll send, you can put in reminders. You can bookmark those prospective customers. You can find carriers to network and build relationships with. It's sort of like an all-encompassing tool for freight brokers and carriers, right? It gives you what equipment type that customer, that prospect is using, what type of volume they have, right? All of these things. And there's a lot more to it, but I don't want this to be a focus on any one individually. Factoring. Factoring is another one of your resources. If you are a freight broker and your factoring company is not providing you with other resources and tools and training advice to help you grow and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here. If they're not helping you grow and scale, then you're just a number. They don't give a rat's patootie about you as an entrepreneur, whether you're a broker or a carrier, right? You're just a cash machine for them, right? They're not providing any value outside of quick paying you, right? And paying your carriers. They're just not. They're processing your invoices, and that's it. When you get set up with a company like Operfi, your success and your growth is their success and growth, right? They don't lock you into these contracts where, oh, you have to give us 90 days prior notice, and we have to acknowledge that we received it, and that, so that you can leave. Otherwise, your contract's going to auto renew. They don't do that, right? They do have a ton of resources. Everybody there, to my understanding, if not, I know a lot of them have been a freight broker, a carrier, or both. They have real world industry knowledge. That's why these guys are rock stars. That's why I've partnered with them. I know I brag them up a lot, but it's true, right? I wouldn't be so gung-ho on Operfi if it wasn't true, right? They really provide you the tools for success as a freight broker and as a carrier. And if you're a new freight broker, most factoring companies won't work with you. And the other ones that do, again, they're not really providing any value to you at all. Not any of the ones that I've ever seen, at least. Right? You're just a number, and that's it. And oftentimes their processing requirements can be kind of complicated, right? Not all of them, but some of them are. But why not, if you're going to factor, why not have that resource? Because Operfi itself is more than just a factory company. They're a resource, right? Why wouldn't you be utilizing that? Last thing I'm going to mention is watch out for red flags. Okay? One of the things, what I mean by red flags is if you book a load with a carrier, right, and whether it's a first come, first serve, or whether it's an appointment time for pickup, and after booking the load, they won't sign your rate confirmation and send it back. Or if 20 minutes after, you try to follow up with them, hey, did you get the rate confirmation? I just wanted to follow up, make sure, can you please sign that and return it to me? If it is by appointment, maybe you booked it at 8 o'clock that morning and they have a 2 p.m. pickup. You check in with them at 11 o'clock noon. Hey, are we still on schedule? Just want to make sure, kind of a thing. Do a quick check call with them. If they're not answering the phone, replying to emails and getting back to you, that's a big red flag, right? If they're hesitant about providing you with the driver's name and phone number, that's a big red flag. If the load requires tracking and they say, oh, they're an old man and they're using a flip phone. They can accept tracking link. Big red flag, right? Even if they pass all of the other checks and somehow get through all of your other vetting, those are red flags. You probably want to reach out to, the other carriers in your database, right? That you have relationships with, and probably throw it up on the load board and cancel the load on that carrier, because it's going to be a headache from the word go. I've seen it. I've dealt with it before. And there again, if you just let that happen, I sent the rate confirmation to them, it's on them now. That's complacency as well, right? Complacency is the evil in this industry, or any industry for that matter. And I'm not saying you have to be up at 4 a.m. every morning and work till midnight, right? But follow through. Don't get complacent about your prospecting, your vetting, your carrier and customer relationships. Don't get complacent about not utilizing all of the resources available to you, and don't get complacent about ignoring those red flags, right? If you utilize all of this and start being proactive about putting this into action on a daily basis, regardless of what the market is doing, you will start to find success. Whether it be small starting out, you might hit a home run with a fantastic customer, but don't let that go to your head. Don't get complacent. You keep prospecting, right? You should have at a minimum 5 to 10 customers that you're working with at any given point in time, because if anything happens to one or two of those, it's like you're saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? I hope this helps. I probably should have done this video on Monday, but again, I was up so early today, and yesterday I was absolutely swamped. But yeah, it just kind of, with all the emails that I've received, the DMs on Facebook and LinkedIn and the phone calls, this just seems to be a very common problem, right? And we're going to discuss some of these same sort of things in the next video, but for truck drivers and owner operators, carriers, right? Because one deals with the other. But I felt it was important to kind of break this video apart rather than doing, all in one. So does anybody have any questions? Are you dealing with a problem right now that you don't know how to handle? If you're having problems, maybe, Tim, I'm brand new. I don't know where to start with finding customers or how to approach customers. Email me, right? That's what I'm here for. Where'd my email address go? There it is. Email me. I will help you. Or you can go back to some of my previous videos. Go to the playlists if you're on YouTube. I actually have free shippers in there for you guys, right? There's a little bit of legwork involved in finding out who the point of contact would be, but and it seems like a lot of it is sort of produce. It seems like, produce season sort of tends to sort of kick us off after that January, February lull, right? And so, I tend to kind of do those, but I probably should do some other ones. And there's all kinds of stuff out there. ThomasNet, is one. You can use Manta, and some are better than others. But if you're struggling, like I did when I first got in, if you're new to the channel and don't know this story, I'll keep it brief, but just as a quick sidebar. I took a training course. There's a lot of legalities. I had no sales background. I didn't know how to approach customers, how to find customers, right? I joined one or two Facebook groups hoping to find some advice. I was looking on YouTube. A lot of it ended up being BS. Right? Or, teaser type stuff, but pay for my program and I'll teach you how to make millions upon millions. You'll make $11 your first day, was all BS. But I had a couple of brokers and a couple of carriers have mercy on me, right, and kind of help point me in the right direction. And very soon thereafter, I was able to land my first customer, and it just sort of snowballed from there, right? And that was because I was very proactive in my daily routine, right, and not getting complacent in what I was doing, right? And I am where I am today. I'm still here after all these years, right? Some of you are like, "Oh, he's still here?" No, but yeah, so if you have problems, if you're brand new, you don't know where to start, or maybe you've been in the industry for the last, year, 2, 3 years, whatever, or even longer, but you're finding yourself in a rut, and you're like, Tim, yeah, that's great, about the complacency and everything, but I'm still having trouble, right? Maybe you've had to go out and work another part-time job. It's interfering with your scheduling and things. Reach out to me. Maybe we can come up with some sort of a solution, right? In fact, I remember having a conversation with a freight agent who, kind of starting out, they couldn't leave their other job. They did tell them that they had to go to part-time. I had another one that still worked a regular job. I shouldn't say regular job, right? What I mean is, punching a time clock type job. And they were still full time, and they were trying to figure out how to, grow as a freight broker and get started while still doing their other job, right? And we found ways around that. And part of it was just, depending upon what their other work schedule was like, was starting at one end of the country and working your way across because of the different time zones. So like me being in Eastern time zone, when it's 8 a.m. here, it's what, 5 a.m. in Cali on the West Coast, right? So my days typically when I'm prospecting don't end at 5 o'clock Eastern. They go until 8 p.m. because I'm working my way across the U.S., right, through each time zone, and I segment my prospects accordingly because I know roughly about how many phone calls I can make, how long each one takes, how many that I can do for each time zone, and I just kind of work my way down, when I'm doing my later in the day calling. So there's ways to make both work so that you don't go broke and starve, right, while you're getting started. So, yeah, I mean, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you think you kind of know what you need, but you're not sure how to ask it, if I don't understand, I'll ask you. Maybe kind of elaborate. Maybe we jump on a phone call. Maybe we even do some live cold calling together, right? Whatever we need to do, because I really want to see everybody succeed. I really truly do, and I hope that you guys find value from all of this. From all of these videos, or at least some of them. So if you like them, again, I appreciate everybody that likes, shares, subscribes. If you haven't already done so, I'm very humbled by everybody that has. If you're not already a member of the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. It's a really great place to be. We do our very best to keep it spam free and positive for everybody to learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm not saying that we won't end up with somebody commenting on your post that maybe they're having a bad day and they're a little bit rude. We'll give them a warning. Hey, you can't do that. Kind of a thing. We're not trying to take anybody's freedom of speech away, but we want to keep it a very positive environment, right? So that we can all network and grow and be successful together, right? Maybe we should name the group like Freight Master Mafia or something. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll create another group, call it Freight Master Mafia today, right? Specifically for this. It'll be like an entirely different type group for the YouTube channel or something. I don't know. Just kind of came to me. But yeah, hit me up. You got my email. If you're on the Facebook group, you can DM me, right? Just look up who the admin is in the member search. and I'll do my very best to help you. I do keep the email monitored, like I tell you guys every video, regularly throughout the day, so you won't have to wait 3 days for me to respond. And I do check the spam folder, right? I think it's only happened maybe once or twice. I forgot to check the spam folder, and I had an email that was sitting there for nearly a whole day. So, so yeah, let me know. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I will more likely see you all back here tomorrow or Thursday around noon. All right. Ta-ta for now. Bye-bye.